Good day, everyone watching the recording. It's that time of the week again, the Monday market analysis. And it's been an interesting weekend, and it's promising to be a very interesting week also. We have a lot to cover, so let's get on. Just starting, as usual, with the news sites. That was not the marking I wanted. Whoop. Just quickly glancing, Dow futures are looking for a bigger drop after 3 weeks of losses. It's not much of a surprise, actually. First market, the macro market is a bit fearful, but it's also sell-off September. So historically, one of the worst days of the year on average. Obviously, there we have the headlines, fears of inflation and stagflation. Stock markets looking to go a bit down. Of course, the Chinese Evergrande disaster in the making. One of the biggest Chinese real estate companies is over its neck into debt, and it's not doesn't seem to survive unless the US government of the China government will bail it out. And most people expect that, but I do have my doubts. So that's going to be very interesting to follow. For the rest, yeah, the all over sentiment is pretty much down and red at the moment. And obviously that impacts crypto also. Pre-market figures are just a bit coming in. Looks like quite a bit of a drop there. And if we look at the calendar for this week, we start easy, nothing serious on today or Tuesday, but the big stuff is happening Wednesday evening with the Fed press conference, the interest rate decision, the projections and everything. So this will definitely cause some turmoil depending on what they decide. If they just keep it to the forecast, then it should not be that bad, but interesting time to mark in your agendas as market movement. And Thursday, we got the jobless claims. The sites don't mark it as impactful or like medium impact, but I do always watch that. Those figures, if they are actually much worse or better, then it's definitely a market mover. But 8 o'clock European time is the big event for this week. Well, let's look what my fundamentals chart is doing. US dollar index has been going exactly how I expected it to go. It is forming that right shoulder, hopefully, and let's see if we get a rejection around that this area. Could take a bit more, maybe film indecision candles or start dropping, but I don't expect it to break this 93. Yeah, I'm on the right scale, 93.4-ish. And if it starts dropping, that is pretty good for Bitcoin and things like gold, obviously. So far it plays out perfectly. And obviously this is my dream scenario for crypto. If it takes a plunge down towards these levels, the 90s, then we should see a nice gain in a possible push for crypto. definitely keeping an eye on that one. Stock markets, yeah, been going down pretty much from their all-time high, but if you look at it, it's just probably another bounce up soon, depending on the Fed actions. No real retrace, actually. Maybe 50% since the last plunge. Well, exactly the golden pocket there. So it could definitely be a bounce level, at least for the S&P 500. That's the one I look at most. A bit of a pullback. We'll see how that goes. Quickly looking at gold, also seems to be bottoming out a bit. Probably going to be going sideways until the Wednesday Fed speech, just like the stock markets will probably float around this level, is my guess there. Bitcoin on the weekly, still looking great. We had the major correction into the support band. We managed to bounce off the bottom. And on the weekly chart, it would not surprise me if we backtest the top of this support band again. So that would probably be around 42-ish. But that's on the weekly scale, obviously. Bitcoin dominance still on its clear trajectory. It's pretty much in a channel down that it seems to be breaking finally. At least it's trying, and it's actually pushing the top of this little channel here. We did have a pretty good bounce from that bottom, so I think the likely scenario, if Bitcoin goes up or down, is probably dominance will rise a bit. And I do expect it to test this trend line around 48 again, for try to break that. So no alt season at the moment. Alts will pretty much follow Bitcoin's moves, but obviously amplified. Bitcoin goes up, alts go up faster. If Bitcoin goes down, alts go down faster, like usual when there's no alt season. We are at historic, not at historic low. I think the lowest point ever was 35-ish in January of 18. So there is some room, there is plenty of room for another altcoin season in this cycle. Volatility, yeah, still pretty low. It did break out of this triangle-ish, but there's not much, no convincing levels yet. Bounced a bit of these levels. But TA on the volatility is pretty hard. But so far, all quiet, no major volatility in the market. It will come back later this year. Look at the whales at Bitfinex. Longs are pretty much stagnant. Shorts are pretty much stagnant. Well, number of shorts dropped 18% in the last day today, so that's good. At least we don't have selling pressure from huge shorts like we had before. And the market cap didn't break that diagonal fib line here, but it's also still bouncing from that pretty much 2 trillion level as support. If that holds, that's good. I don't want to, you might wick down to the 1.75-ish, but I really don't want to see it breaking this major support zone. That would not be good. Don't expect it to happen. There's a good chance we do get a bit of drop and then bounce off this support box. some days I think just looking at the market cap from a TA perspective is even more useful than looking at BTC. We're quite stabilizing around this area. Good sign means the asset class at whole is still pretty strong. We just box this in. We have a very clear level that we are, zone that we are in between the 2 trillion and, well, maybe a bit higher. 2 and 2, that's probably the zone that we are bouncing in. We don't want to daily close below it. We do want to daily close above it, obviously. All in all, pretty strong sign. Could argue for a cup and handle formation here. Why do I always lose all the tools when I'm in a Zoom? Oh, there we go. Curve. There is definitely an argument for cup and handle. Somewhere like this. And if we measure that one out, where do we end up? Say we break out somewhere here-ish, just above the 2 trillion. That would bring us all the way to 3.5 trillion. So that's pretty amazing if that will, we manage to do this. Keep in mind this structure. Date range. The structure has been forming for the last 131 days, so it does take time to play out. These are very long-term structures, but there's no doubt. Well, let's put it a bit more conservative. We'll probably end up here on that FIB extension level. I think that's, yeah, that's a bit more likely. Probably inside that zone. Starting at 2 trillion. I think it's perfect. Very nice structure. It's definitely what you expect after a parabolic move up. Like we started here and we pretty much, this was the parabolic move there. Something like this. This one can go. Parabolic move up, big correction of, let's take a look exactly into the golden pocket again. It's bloody amazing. It's just cheating, really. We got a 61 to 65% retrace from a parabolic move, forming a cup and handle pattern where we are finding support around a major level 2 trillion. And if that breaks out, it would bring us to approximately 3.3 trillion over the 2.2. 3.2 trillion would be my target based on the FIB extensions. Let's just check. Do I have the right one? Got too many lines on this one. just have to make that a bit brighter. Where is that one? There. So the FIT extension is all the way at 4 trillion. So that's a good chance that will be the market cycle top. I would be so happy if it ends up in that zone. I think everyone here will. But first, we have quite a bit of time to go. As you see, this projected breakout point is the end of September, so we might zigzag all the way to this bottom of 1.75 support if things keep going south the last week. So far, we're holding strong on that level. Crypto market cap, very, very interesting at this daily time frame. And we're back at the US dollar index, that it's also supporting the whole picture. Let's look at the current time frame, 4 hour. As you saw yesterday, I responded to a question on divergences where I said you want to, and I think we were still at this level yesterday evening, said what I am looking for on the 4 hour is a drop to the golden pocket that we even went past. But not only that, you want some confirmation from your oscillators like trend momentum or true MFI or one of the others. You want to see some divergences on a major level with TD sequential reversals. Well, we got what we wished for exactly. This trend momentum sell flag was bloody spot on again. Perfect. You'll see the true MFI was starting to drop, but obviously that's a bit slower and it's a fast oscillator. So when they align, both dropping, you know where it's going, especially after a weekend pump like this, double top, broke down, hit a deep retrace, 786 after bouncing off the FIB golden pocket, but we did get a nice TD sequential reversal, 8/9s in the books. Looking at divergences, and the 1 hour I don't really look too much at. We have a nice MACD, RSI, stochastics, and momentum divergence on the 4 hour on this dip. We even have on the 8 hour, we have MACD, RSI, CCY channel momentum on balance volume and the trend momentum diverging on the 8 hour. That's really significant. And even on the daily, we have the CCI on balance volume and MFI diverging there. So a lot of things are pointing at least a leg up. Could be towards a triple top, or we just could bounce further up. We'll just have to wait and see. But so far, this seems like a proper bounce level. Plenty of divergences. I'm missing a chart here. Look at the TD sequential counts. The 1 hour, we almost hitting a 13. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we probably hit a 13 reversal there on the 1 hour. The 4 hour, we had our reason for 8/9 reversal. The 8 hour, not. So that's pretty significant time frame to have your reversal flags, especially when they align with those Fibonacci's, and we have a nice anchor wave forming finally again on the 4-hour. The last anchor wave that we had was all the way in August, when we were taking that move up. Pretty significant move. So good to see that we're at some good downwards momentum, but we didn't take a crazy drop in price, and we are getting a nice anchor wave there. So when to enter a trade, I'm just waiting a bit. I didn't scale in yet. I took a small kickstart DCA trade around this level, as I posted in the channel, and I'm just, this is still way too close to start scaling in again to DCA more. So I'm just waiting to see what happens here. Probably, hopefully have a move up, trigger wave forming, and then continue upwards, supported by the oscillators. When we look at the Fibonacci gun laser show, we see that this major gun line from the previous low, previous high, was acting as resistance. 1, 2, 3 candles. We found a bit of support on this gun line, but in the end we did break down. We're now landing in this zone again, and this zone, let's see if I can, this blue line here originates from the June low of around 30K, and it has been support here, just turning it off. It was resistance here where it's broke, found support here again. We found support here again. Now we did wick through, but we're going back into that zone. So it's definitely a significant support resistance line. Just hope it does not turn into resistance. But if it does, all the targets from last week still pretty much stand. Next hit is the 44, 43, 41. Would not be strange if we bounced off this zone, but I don't really want to go below the 43, because then we are making a lower low. And that could mean more downwards momentum. So we're at a pretty tough spot to look. If we just draw a line between the lows, we are pretty much exactly on the right trajectory to make a third higher low. Third higher low would indicate a nice bounce up. We do have a bit of a major again crossing to avoid. You see we came close to that in a squeeze from these GAN lines, and then Bitcoin has to decide, will I jump over or will I jump under? And with this being a weekend pump, and the markets don't like those, it usually dives under, which it did. Sadly, the bull flag did not perform as we wanted it. It did try, but it got rejected massively at this resistance zone that I think started all the way in February. So for me, I'm just sitting on hands at this time. If we go down, I will these dollar cost average in, just add to my positions, decreasing my average NT price. I'm not shorting it at the moment because of being this close to major supports. That's not a place where I tend to short. So far, it looks like a bounce. but there's not much volume coming in there. Are we getting some divergences? Not really on these two. So yeah, targets still stand. Might have to add one target on the bottom of this range, 48.7. If we bounce here, next test is that 48.7. I think it will, most likely scenario is that we will zigzag a bit up here. And then before this crossing, we have to decide to go test this level again. If we break down below this green line, then we're definitely looking at 43.41 as our next downward targets. If we break the previous low, it would almost mean testing this zone already. Don't think we will fly up. Where is the end of September? If we just remove those scribbles a bit. If I look for September, a likely scenario is that we are doing something like this. Then at the end of September, we have to choose to either go down or up. We're pretty much in the middle between those zones still. I don't see those two breaking before the end of this month. And that breaking point will probably be pretty much the end when we pass this confluence zone here. If I just draw that. I think this is, speaking of time, this is probably the finish line. For the next significant move. About here, just before here, it has to decide which zone to test, the 41.43K zone or the 48.50K zone. So I think I covered everything I wanted to today. We will see how this plays out if we manage to make a higher low on this time frame. If we hold this, could be a nice area to enter, but I just don't see any. The only real reversal sign at the moment is this Fibonacci bounce with the 8/9 reversal, but it's hard to tell how much it will reverse. It already reacted to it, but it could just go sideways and continue down. Targets are clear. If we break this green line, we'll probably hit the 43.41. Worst case targets are still here. And keep in mind, you see this red line, the point of control at 34K. If I just switch to the daily, I hope it's a bit messy on the daily. We see our all-time high here. If we take the volume profile from the all-time high until now, we see that the point of control is 34K, and that's probably a very, very strong support zone, probably the strongest in this whole area. We could go down there and on the daily still make higher lows, so keep that in mind. Sometimes you have to zoom out for the reality check. But we're definitely not there yet. If it wants to go down that far, the 40 143 level is very strong and very well defended. Would surprise me, but it's not impossible. Everything is possible in this crazy world. If it happens, there will probably be external factors like panic in the stock market. Maybe the Chinese evergreen disaster pans out and spreads a lot of fear. If that happens, we might reach those levels. But if the Fed keeps printing, there's no panic in the markets, the Chinese government builds the evergreen Everlast out, then the upside scenario is more likely. Well then, we're off to a half hour. Thanks for watching the recording and see you all in the next one.